let's jump right in. I've not got the list. I've not got the ranking up. I probably should have done that before. But actually, you know what? What'll be fun? I'll try to do it off the top of my head. Actually, that might be
okay.
Fun. See if I can do that. So I think bottom is Hotter Than Hell.
Correct.
Then Rock and Roll Over. Then Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Is it self-titled?
Mm-hmm.
Self-titled. And then is it Peter Criss above self-titled?
No.
No. Dressed to Kill.
No.
Love Gun.
Yeah, Love Gun at number 5.
Love Gun. All right, Love Gun. Then Love Gun. Then Peter Criss, and then Peter Criss.
Yeah.
Then what's after Peter Criss? Dressed to Kill. Dressed to Kill. Destroyer. Paul Stanley. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Well done.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not too bad, that. So that's the ranking, and as of yet, none of these albums we would necessarily recommend to anyone. I personally would recommend Peter Criss's solo album, which is a undiscovered gem of an album, an underrated gem of an album that should probably have been number 1, but isn't. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Ace Frehley's solo album.
Baby.
Obviously, at this point, the respective members of Kiss have temporarily split up to look for hits. Naturally, so does Ace. Now, before recording this album, apparently, Gene and Paul had a little dig at him after a business meeting. They said, Ace, by the way, if you need any help with your record, just please just let us know. Anything at all, just let us know. And we'll give you a bit of a hand with it. Apparently, Ace was a bit rubbed the wrong way by this. He felt it was a little bit patronising, bit of a dig. And he said to himself, I don't need your help. So it appears that, Ace has got a little bit of an axe to grind on this album. So in order to, get his own back and to prove himself, to prove his worth, he recruited Eddie Kramer again because he enjoyed working with him so much. And on the drums, he got someone called Anton Fig. It's worth bringing up Anton Fig because he's quite a significant person within the Kiss story, because he would actually go on to play drums on the next 2 studio albums, because Peter's drumming was seen. That's true, yeah, because it was seen. Peter's drumming was seen as not up to par, so Anton Fig would take over the drums.
I didn't know that. That makes so much sense with something I'm going to say later.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because I Was Made for Loving You, which is obviously the big hit off the next record, Dynasty. You listen to it, it's like, yeah, that's not Peter. That's not Peter playing the drums. Way too busy, way too propulsive as well. Yeah, so he's pretty significant. It was. He also went on to play in David Letterman's band with Paul Schaefer.
I did hear
which
that.
Which means that he must be the only person alive. Yeah, Anton Fig. So he must be the only person alive that's played with those 2 people, like Ace Frehley and Paul Schaefer. He must be the only person that has played with both of those 2 people. They're so worlds apart. Another thing that's worth noting is that Ace Frehley produced this album as well. He co-produced it, so it's very much his baby. This very, very much his baby. A lot of the songs were written during the Rock and Roll Over sessions, but didn't make the album, which is a shame, I think, because without giving too much away, I mean, maybe it is giving too much away. I mean, this is better than that album.
It's not giving too much away.
Yes,
I think we all agree.
I don't think that's giving too much away.
Yeah,
but that is whether that. I mean, we'll find out later whether that's damning with faint praise, but that is better than this. It's weird because Paul said Ace's songs weren't good enough. But, Ladies' Room made the cut. Love 'Em and Leave 'Em made the cut, but, Snowblind didn't.
Sorry.
Bit mad, that,
sorry.
I think.
Paul directly said, I assume you got this from his lengthy autobiography, that Ace's songs weren't good enough.
Yeah, of course. Correct.
Okay. I'm going to edit my conclusion because that is just that fits in exactly what I was thinking about this album. That's ridiculous.
I think that's utterly ridiculous, isn't it? I think
We're not talking about like Peter Chris's
shambolic
songs. Yeah, we're not talking about Peter Chris's songs where like they are quite a big departure from the
Yeah.
usual Kiss sound. Like, I feel as though like a lot of Ace's stuff, even though they do go in different directions, like it's definitely in the same spirit and uses a lot of the same like foundations that we know from Paul and Gene. So what's going on, Paul?
Even that. When you think of some of the Gene songs that are on that album, you know, like Love 'Em and Leave 'Em and Ladies Room, you know, whether you like the album that we're going to talk about or not, they're a lot worse than this. A lot worse than anything that's on this, surely.
Yes.
100%. Less heavy, more inoffensive, boring, less interesting. Like, it's mad. Absolutely mad.
Yeah, I think it sounds
Anyway.
like we're about to really praise this album, but not even that necessarily. I think we're not necessarily giving anything away here.
No, I agree with you there.
But to say that
Like,
his
I'm
songs
not-
weren't good enough, but Ladies Room was. I think you've hit on it there, Alexi. Like that was good enough, or fucking, I don't know. I'm starting to forget all the. Going Blind. Going Blind was good enough. That really
forget. Going.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
That was off Hotter Than Hell on that one. It's just when you look at Rock and Roll Over, when you look at that album, which is the one that we've rated, like, I think the second worst, it's just above Hotter Than Hell.
Yeah.
And to say that, like, none of these songs could have gone on that album, it's just mad to me. There's so much more dynamic. There's so much more going on. There's so much more exciting. Like, the idea that, like, you know, God, it's so bad because I feel like I'm just repeating the same point over and over and again. But Ladies Room.
Haven't we talked about earlier that they struggle to fill the albums? Like, was it with Rock and Roll where they had to do the cover? And then She Kissed Me.
No, that was Love Gun,
Love
but
Gun.
still.
That's Love Gun.
But still.
Oh, okay.
They
But we
sound
talked about
starved
before
of
that, like,
material.
they struggled to fill to get 10 tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Also, like, you know, but it's not even that they weren't like, oh, these are unfinished songs, these aren't good enough. Their whole thing was like, we'd worked with Bob Ezrin, so we decided we need to quality control after this, and Ace's songs just weren't good enough. Like, that's mad to me.
But then to come out with Rock
like,
and
to
Roll
not give
Over.
anything. I mean, I don't want to give too much.
Mad. Sorry,
I know,
you go first.
I know. I mean, like, well, I'm just saying, like, to not give too much away. My least two favorite songs on this album are ones that just sound like lazy Kiss songs. But even those songs are better than the majority of things on Rock and Roll Over. Easily.
I think I agree. The majority of this album, and I don't think it is giving much away because Rock and Roll Over was really low. I think the majority of this album is better than Rock and Roll Over. I will say, not to go on too much of a tangent at the start of the episode, I think, like, we are not getting Rock and Roll Over the way their fans do, because I was watching Mike Portnoy's vinyl collection video, because that's how I spend my time, and he was gushing over Rock and Roll Over, man. Yeah. He loves Rock and Roll Over. Like, and he was name dropping the tracks, saying like, "Oh, it's got this one everybody loves that." I can't even remember which ones. Just all those forgettable songs. So, you know, we're the losers. We're not getting it. We're not getting it.
No, I disagree. Mike Portnoy's the loser. Mike Portnoy's the loser in that situation. That is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I would have even thought that would have been his favourite. I would have thought like Music for the Elder would have been his favourite.
Oh, no, he did.
Or at least like a heavy one, like Creatures of the Night.
He did like Music for the Elder a lot too. And Hotter Than Hell. I think those were the...
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did.
I knew he did. Yeah. Or at least Creatures, because Creatures of the Night, you know, is at least a lot heavier than Rock and Roll Over. It's just terrible. I mean, it's one of those where I'm just sorry, but I think the rose-tinted glasses thing that particularly a lot of very influential musicians that I admire a lot, that really dig this band, particularly that era. I think they just grew up on it. I think it's just one of those.
Yeah, I think
where they grew up on it. And it was a massive influence on them.
I've said maybe things on this show before, like, does anyone even really like Kiss? And I'm wrong, because now that I'm like tuned into Kiss and like noticing when their names get mentioned, like, and I'll read about all these musicians I like, yeah, and they all name drop Kiss. Kiss are a very influential band, whether we like it or not. Actually, I think we do like that fact, and that's probably why we're doing this, part of it. But it is amazing.
Yeah.
They've influenced a lot of people.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like you said, Dream Theater,
Dream
Tool,
Theater.
Alice in Chains, Stone, it's Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots. Like, those are like great bands. Rage Against the Machine, like Tom Morello inducted them into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I watched that recently.
Tangent. A bit of a tangent. Do you know Rage Against the Machine got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
No.
And the only person that turned up was Tom Morello. It was like one of the saddest things I have ever seen in my life. He looked absolutely devastated. It was just him by himself doing this little speech. It's really, really sad. I mean, obviously,
I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah, he'd be the one that. Yeah, it's really sad. The Kiss one is just awkward.
I love
really
it.
Awkward.
I love it.
But we'll get to that.
Yeah,
in a future episode, because it's definitely worth covering. Anyway, one song was brought in for Ace to try, and that was a cover. It was a cover of a Russ Ballard song, who's of the band Hello, and it was a song called New York Groove. Ace was originally not into the idea, but decided to give it a go. And it became a legit hit. It was a legit hit, got to number 8, and it's a legit hit. Still gets played on, like, sort of vintage songs from the 70s, sort of, absolute 70s kind of radio station. Still gets played. It was on the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 soundtrack. I got a little extra release on live. There's a deleted scene in that film where they talk about Ace Frehley, 2 of the characters. I've not actually seen. Oh no, wait, have I seen it? No, I have. I've seen the film. I've not seen that scene. But yeah, that is of all the albums, all the solo albums, it was the only one to yield a hit. And we'll get into what we think of the song later on. But that, in itself, is a pretty good achievement to be 1/4 of that band and yield like a kind of a legit hit that's still reasonably well regarded today. That's pretty impressive.
I mean, he won. If there was a winner, out of the 4, I mean, he's sold the most records. He was the only one with a hit. He seems, at least to me,
second most.
No, I heard In Time. Sorry.
Oh no, you're right. Sorry, yeah. Initially it was Gene, but he actually caught up and overtook him, didn't he?
I think that's what I read. Yeah, maybe we should fact check that. I think that's what I read. It's the one everyone talks about. Well, everyone goes, "Oh, Ace had the best solo album. Ace had the best of the solo albums."
Shit, I should. No, I should fact check that. Yeah, or as H Bomber guy will make like a 6-hour documentary
about KissKast.
But H Bomber guy or Todd in the Shadows. I watched that. It was absolutely insane. I watched all 5 hours of it. I think it's 4 hours.
Like
absolutely
4.5,
yeah.
It's
But
good.
we get like 4. It is very good. We get like 4 views though, so that'd be kicking us when we're down. By all accounts, Ace was incredibly focused on this album, despite being gassed basically 24 hours a day. He was very, very diligent. He kept I say 24 hours a day, he kept his drinking to a minimum. He'd only go out in the evenings, and that's when he'd drink and do drugs. During the day, he was very, very, very diligent. He had his head in the game. According to the engineer, he would try out hundreds of guitar amps and guitar combinations to try to get the right tone, which is a bit weird because I swear this album, like, it's heavy tone. It has like one heavy tone, this album. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of sounds on this album, but it's got like pretty much one heavy tone, and that is kind of identical to a lot of the Kiss tones, just kind of crunchy and a little bit underwhelming. However, regardless of that, he worked very, 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 very hard. And he played all the guitars himself. Every single guitar on this, he played. He even played the majority of the bass on it. There are a few songs where he got a session guy in who I can't remember the name of. but who cares? He does not matter.
Yep.
So he had his head in the game. He worked day and night. He worked very, very, very hard. He was trying out different things, experimenting. His desire to crush Gene and Paul into the ground was very, very strong. The question is, did he succeed? And we sort of gone over this, but I have not listened to Gene's yet. But by all accounts, this is genuinely perceived as being the best one.
Yeah.
The best albums released in September 18th, 1978. Had a good critical reception and relative commercial success. It yielded the only hit. And as Danny pointed out, actually, sorry, Danny, you're all right. I've got this in my notes. It eventually became the most successful of all the 4 solo albums.
There we go.
All in all, it's seen as the best and the most successful. And even Gene, in his autobiography, said words to that effect, saying that he thought Aces was the best. So, just before we go into the album and the album cover, I haven't really got much to say about the cover because it's the same artist, similar design. But what would you want from an Ace Frehley solo album? What were you sort of hoping for?
Guitar solos and a cool and/or mysterious edge. That's what I was hoping for.
Oh yeah.
I'd say it. That's interesting.
Because I can elaborate if you'd
I
like.
get that because go on, Danny.
I think
Go on then. If you want.
I think he is sort of seen. Maybe this is going into my conclusion, but he is sort of seen as the cool one, or at least I think was back then in terms of their, them as their caricatures rather than their perhaps real personalities, because like his accent and his like demeanor does not particularly match this front cover, for example. He's kind of got that glazed look about him.
Yeah, no, he's a dork.
Which is fine. And so, but I think his image is, to put it stereotypically, the quiet, mysterious, cool one, right? I think maybe I'm wrong. I feel like
he's definitely the.
Go on.
He's definitely seen as like the George Harrison of that dynamic.
Right. I also feel like he's even the heartthrob of the 4, if there really was one. If there was one, I think that that.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Maybe no, I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm projecting.
Right?
Paul's not. I don't think many. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I just think.
I don't know. I think Paul's seen as more of like a useful idiot sort of thing. You know what I mean? Because he's the most talented member. He just has the shittest look. Like he was no one's favorite. Absolutely no one's favorite. But I agree with you. I think that he has a mysterious kind of quiet quality to him. He's sort of seen, I guess, to use the George Harrison analogy, as maybe as their sort of secret weapon, in a way.
Yeah, a bit like
but
that.
I feel as though this this wasn't done intentionally. While I feel as though Gene and Paul work a lot on their image. I don't feel like Ace is intentionally being like, well, I'm the mysterious one, and I'm like, I think it just sort of it's come out that way because Gene and Paul are so in front all the time, and Peter, like whether it's for his makeup or for the songs he's done, has sort of like made a character for himself. So like Ace is mysterious, but I'm not sure he's intentionally being that way. I think it just in virtue of being next to those other.
I think
three.
so.
Yeah.
I think that's true. But I think management must have noticed.
It could just be that he just
and started to brew a brand image for Ace based on that. So same as George Harrison, like what Alexi said. I don't think George Harrison set out to be the quiet one of the Beatles, but that's how he became known.
I think as well that might be why this album was as successful as it was, because I think that
so.
People were intrigued. I think people were sort of intrigued by, that kind of secret weapon. He doesn't write many songs, he doesn't sing much and stuff like that. What can he bring forward? That in combination with the fact that he's got probably the coolest makeup, at least most people. I guess what Danny said about him maybe being a heartthrob. That in combination with having probably the coolest makeup, I think is what drove this to sell so much. Because you would be like, like I said, intrigued by what he could bring out.
Yeah, we've only had one song sung by him so far, right? The Shock Me. Which again, maybe that's why I use the word cool, because that's got a again. I'm using cool very loosely, but you know, it's more of a laid back, pop-ish song than most of Kiss's output at the time. Shock Me, and his singing voice as well.
Yeah,
His singing voice is more Lou Reed than the other members. Put it that way.
yeah, I agree. It's more idiosyncratic. It's more like talk singing.
Yeah.
I have like nothing to say about the front cover because I've already said it. Do you guys have anything you want to say about the cover?
I'll say one thing. I think his
looks cool.
Yeah, I think it looks cool, and I think again maybe part of the reason it sold more is that his is the most ambiguous expression of the four. I would say. Like, what is that expression?
Yeah, Paul. Yeah, actually, you're right. Actually, yeah, because Paul and Ace are sort of almost like not Paul and Ace. Sorry, Paul and Pete are almost like trying to look kind of smolder.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? They're sort of pouting a little bit.
Yeah, well, Gene's just tried too hard.
It's cocked. He's. Oh, Gene's just looks stupid. Gene just looks like. Yeah. He's just pulling like a really like I don't know silly face, like a silly slobbery sort of face.
Just ready to sit on you.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got that look. Yeah. What about you, Alex? Have you got anything you want to say about the cover?
No, we talked before. I like the style, and it suits Ace well. Like we talked about with Peter, that seeing just his face, you think like he doesn't look like a star. Well, I think Ace, his makeup, his style, it works. He looks like a solo star.
Yeah, he looks legit. He definitely looks legit. Okay, track 1. Rip It Out.
Let's have a look.
This is just generic Kiss shit. This is generic Kiss shit. It's quite boring. It's very middle of the road. I think this and the next track are basically exactly the same. My feelings towards them are exactly the same. I think it's generic middle of the road Kiss shit. However, I do think it's better than the majority of Gene's output, particularly on Rock and Roll Over. I'd say for that like generic, boring, middle of the road rock song, it's probably on the higher tier of that sort of sound that they do. But other than that, I really don't have anything to say about it. Danny?
I have more to say about it than that. I certainly see your point, Alexi. It's not a huge departure. I think it's a good opening riff. I think we've got some of the better end of the production we've had so far. There's certainly energy. I was surprisingly impressed by his raspy vocals, and actually an even more surprisingly high register. Not Paul level, but he's up there, which I think is great to hear. It's great to hear that he's got some confidence in his singing.
Yeah, it's true.
And again, throughout the album, that becomes a better or for worse thing, but here, it's pretty good. In fact, sorry, no, I've just seen in my notes, yeah. No, even in the chorus, it does get a bit silly voice syndrome, like that Paul gets sometimes, where he does that kind of weird voice. And I don't know about the sort of low, rip it out sort of harmonies in the chorus. A bit like Dr. Love. This is why I'm amazed by what you said about the drummer, Alexia. I put good flashy drums. There's even like a solo in it. Is that a dig at Peter? Because already the drums are so much better and more professional than any Kiss record we've had so far.
It is.
So it's like he's after his job, and it works.
No, actually, to be honest... Yeah, in it. Yeah, absolutely. Also, like, the other thing is... Paul had the same thing. Paul had some really wicked drums.
Yeah,
on his album as well. Like he had this one. I can't remember what song it was. Had some amazing drum breaks in it. Like amazing. There was one song I can't remember which one.
Me too. Yeah,
more ballady ones. And I think they were just. Oh, I mean that's really such a dick move. Absolutely. But yeah, no. Actually, to be fair, you did bring up a good point where actually the drumming on this actually is very, very good on this song. It is very, very good.
Yeah, good drumming. Of course, the solo's very good. It's such an ace solo. It's one of the aciest solos ever. Nice little licks. And the last chorus, like post solo, is even better in my opinion, although it's very short. Overall, I'm digging it. but I'm not digging the hook. It's not got a hook. It's not like got a really catchy thing about it that I love. Everything else about it, I think it's a good opener. Alex?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is I would give this a good tentative thumbs up. Like I said, the drumming on here is actually really good, and I think the like you said, the drum fill and then into the solo and then back to the drums again. It was really sharp and in a way that we haven't seen with Peter and Ace on other albums. So again, like the chemistry seems to be there. The singing, I'm into it for this sort of track. I quite like. I get a bit tired of it as the album goes on, but I do quite like the layered vocals he goes on for this. Like it's a very different sound to what we get from Paul, and I kind of like the raspiness of it. It suits the heaviness, the rock style, maybe not so heavy. Yeah, and the solos are good. This is exactly what I thought these solo albums were going to be, like just sort of Kiss-esque songs, but then with more emphasis on whatever that singer appreciates. And Paul's was a bit like that. Peter's would not like that at all.
No.
So yeah, it's what I expected, but I do think this is a good start. I agree with you, Danny, about the chorus just lacking. But yeah, I think this is a good one from Ace.
I think that something that's already coming up, and it's the same sort of observation that we've had on the other two previous solo albums. It's just good to hear them playing with different musicians, like chemistry wise and professionalism. They just sound way better when they're not playing with each other. I can't think of like 4 more poorly suited musicians to play in a band together. Like,
it really gives the feeling that like when they play together in Kiss, that it's like a chore for them to play together. Like that's the impression I get.
It just sounds so awkward. It just feels like such a round peg in a square hole. Do you know what I mean? And I imagine you can see why they all fucking hate each other. They must have just got so frustrated with each other constantly. Just be like, oh no, just play it like this. Can you just play it a bit like that? Be like, oh no, I can't. Anyway, speeding my way back to my baby. I have nothing to say about this. It's exactly the same criticisms as I have on the previous track. This song and the last song are my 2 least favorites. When I came into this album, particularly like when I was reading all that stuff about it, be like, oh god, he's really gonna really wanted to show them. And I was, and these were the first 2 tracks. I was just like, are you taking the piss? Sounds exactly the same. So no, I'm not really. I mean, again, it's not like horrible. This and the previous song, they're not like awful. They're just pretty boring and just do nothing for me. Danny, what do you think?
Similar to the last one, I'm a little nicer. I'll agree on some things. I think the rasp feels a bit more forced on this one. I think the lyrics is the first real negative point that comes a few points on the on this album is the lyrics. I don't mean maybe. It's just shit. Speedin Back to my baby, and I don't mean maybe.
Yeah.
It's just rubbish. You can do better than that. I put this one is a bit weaker than the first song. It just sounds old fashioned. Again, that in that way, it's old Kiss stuff. It's an old fashioned sounding Kiss song. I don't mean like an old Kiss song. I mean like how Kiss like to sound old, like to write old fashioned sounding songs. It's got the obnoxious car sound effect that I don't like. But some good things. It opens with a widdly widdly, which Kiss should do more. I always feel like they should use. They've got a perfectly good lead guitarist, and they should use him. I think that again the guitar solos. Oh no, what are more interesting solos. It's got like a weird. I don't know if it's reversed or reverse delay effect going on, which I really liked. Again, he's being allowed to experiment. I just feel like Paul or Gene would have shut that down. It is overall, though, just what you generally expect from a lead guitarist solo album, especially this song. It's like pretty weak songs, but nice licks. So that's what I'm feeling overall. It's overall positive, but I'm not loving the song. But I love guitar lick, so that can carry me quite far, and so far it's carried me. Alex?
I think just on something that you said about, you know, like the nice licks and stuff like that. I think in general this album is not about hooks at all. I think that what this album is trying to strive for is just kind of riffs, licks, and just kind of like a vibe.
Well, you say that, but it's got the
Alex,
only hit.
What do you think of this? Yeah, which is mad. And also, that's...
I think you're right.
We'll get into that. So we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in general, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But in general, I'd say that it's more about kind of like licks and playing and energy and a style. But that one here, I mean, we'll get into it later, has a very good hook on it, a fantastic hook on it. Which is again crazy because he wasn't really going for that on this album. I don't genuinely think he wasn't going for hooks. Yet somehow, I mean, he didn't write the hook. To be fair, it's a cover, but still somehow managed to deliver on that as well, which is pretty impressive. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Danny on a lot of stuff. I think, Ace is just trying to showcase his guitar skills, and this really comes through. And this is kind of old habits, old Kiss habits of this track, the sort of type of song and the pace it goes for. But the guitar features well in it. I quite like it. Again, I like his vocals, his voice over this. He is trying hard with the raspiness. And in fact, he's kind of trying hard on most of this album in terms of like his vocals.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's quite off-putting.
Yeah.
I will say that I think he should have leaned into it more on this track, because even though usually, like with Peter's album, I appreciate the addition of backing singers. I actually think it would be better if he didn't have it on this track and just kept it more raw and kept it more rough, because it's kind of like the feel of the song. It's kind of like old school rock and roll feel. I don't think the backing singers matches his voice and what he's going for on this. But yeah, this is one of my least favorite tracks on the album. However, like we always said, there's stuff on it which puts it a little bit above stuff we've heard from Rock and Roll Over and Dress to Kill. So
I think that I mean that sums it up pretty well. I think that this isn't great. The first two are not great, but then goddamn, I have this easily would be probably the second best song of Rock and Roll Over, maybe second or third behind which ones do I like? Baby Driver. It would be like between Baby Driver and Hard Luck Woman, essentially. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's a lot better than the majority of the songs that are on there. So at this point in the album, and I want to know what you guys think about this. I feel this album goes off a bit of a cliff in sort of like a good way. It gets kind of weird. Is it like?
Yeah.
I genuinely think there is a surprising amount of experimentation on this album moving forward that I was not expecting, and I was quite is impressed the right word. Yeah, I guess impressed by. I'm not saying it always works, but I was relatively impressed by it. I think it sort of starts with this song, Snowblind. I like the riff. It's a nice descending sort of semitone vibe. At least I think it's semitones. The tone is like a little weak. The guitar tone is a little bit weak, but it is quite nice and crunchy. I like the delay on his vocals. It suits his vocals and does him a million favors. There's, like I said, there's a lot of times on this album moving forward where there is some experimentation, and I do quite like that a lot. Like on this track alone, there are like 5 different little accoutrements,
sections, right?
like little nuggets, little weird sounds and stuff that are quite kind of outside the box. Because when you think about how the song's been written, it's quite a generic sort of kind of just like heavy rock, hard rock song, you know. But then there's all these like weird little bits. There's like some feedback coming in the final verse. There's some percussion in that verse as well. Like there's some like toms or timbales or something like that. During the jammy section with the guitar solo, there's some guitar synths that are layered up towards the crescendo, which work really nice to create this very kind of like wall of sound feel to it. It's nice and thick. It sounds a lot heavier than what's on a lot of Kiss records. There are a lot of kind of diverse sounds on it. There's even a fucking donk. I swear it's a donk. They have like a kind of random bit, and like, to be honest with you, I have no idea if I like that or not. That bit, it's also, it's like buried in the mix as well. It's really odd, but I you know, it's still kind of like interesting. I mean, again, that particular bit, I'm not sure if it works or not, but it's still kind of interesting. Like, it's nice to hear the cowbell back. That's probably a dig at Peter. He even plays the cowbell better. Anton Fig even plays it better than Peter does. But yeah, it's heavy. It's surprisingly unique. It's great that they've come from it from a sort of sideways angle. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I like this one. Danny.
It's interesting to hear you talk about that, man. We're like subtly disagreeing on this album a bit, because to me this was the good thing is that it was the lyrical change here was very welcome. Although it's still not great like actual lyrics, but in terms of what he seems to be singing about, it's very 100,000 Years, more sci-fi, like going blind from sun radiation or something. I'm not quite sure, but I think that's cool.
No, it's a drug song, right? It's a drug song.
I think it's a drug song.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's a drug song.
But
Dan, you made an interesting...
No, I want to say first. Okay, but it's like
point about
Ashes to Ashes, isn't it? That's also... You could boringly interpret that as being about drugs. Or it's still about Major Tom, and that's fun. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not willing to go that far for it, but all right.
Okay.
You know, when you were saying you wanted sort of like a mysterious kind of vibe off this,
Yeah.
and licks and stuff like that, I feel like this song is one of the ones that does that better, particularly with like the delay on his vocals and stuff like that. I think using those textures works with him very, very well, and it helps add to his aesthetic.
But don't you think? I just think his stuff, like his vocal delivery, and I'm gonna bring it out. The plot. This song's got plot, and I thought it was a bit of a Gene song. It was just a bit of a Gene song.
No.
Just the snow black. I can hear him sing that, and the fact that he is kind of slightly off when he does the snowblind bit. I don't know if he's a little bit flat or something. So I wasn't loving it. I liked the solo. I thought I didn't know. You said guitar synths, Alexi. You're probably right, but I thought it was like some weird organ or something. I like that it was double time. That sounded good. We get more flashy drums. I especially what I did like was the slowdown at the end. I thought that worked brilliant. That's a really nice moment on the album.
Yeah, that bit's
But
really
overall, just the guitar tone was weak. It's a plotty song. It's a Gene song. I'm not into it. Alex.
You see, I didn't get the plot. I didn't get the plot off this. I actually genuinely believe Peter, Chris, and Gene are the plot. I think them as a rhythm section are that sound. A bit like when Paul Stanley was saying like John Bonham was that massive giant sound, and he is that sound. I generally think that Peter and Gene as a rhythm section, they are the plod. Like, they are plodcore. I didn't get the plod too much off this. Alex, what do you think?
I'm not going to go as far to say it's a Gene song. The initial riff, it took me a while to get into it. But I think the production is way better than a lot of the Gene songs we've had in the past. Even though I'm not super into the lyrics, I like that he's taken from a different sort of space. He's taken from like a different place creatively, whether that is, say that what you will, from a lot of the Kiss songs. I like the fast part and I like the slow part. And I think once again, the guitars are featured really well. I will agree with you, Danny, about sort of his vocals. They do come through really flat on this one. Like, I don't think he can pull off the snowblind part. I just don't think that fits into his into his vocal style. Yeah, I don't have much more to say this. I think this is a nice attempt. I kind of think it needs someone else to help him with the songwriting, especially maybe with the transitions between the sort of the first rhythm section and then when it picks up the pace. Because the transition is just kind of awkward. I wonder if there needs to be like a bridge or something else to get in there. But I think this one's okay. Not as bad as you guys are saying, or Danny's saying at least.
No, I like this one. Ozone. Fucking hell, right. The lyrics are just dire.
Oh,
The
yes.
lyrics are really fucking rubbish.
Yes.
They are really fucking rubbish. Even by Kiss's standards, and the whole organization's basic rhyming pattern doesn't help that it's paired with a really fucking annoying vocal melody. The vocal melody is so irritating.
Yes.
His vocals as well are way too dry. As well, they are way too dry. They should have been like a lot wetter just to give it a sort of bigger, spacier, more psychedelic vibe. Which is obviously what they're going for, but it just doesn't achieve it. The sort of vibe of this song, I think, is a good approach. I think there should be more stuff on the album that's kind of like this, but just done better. Having said that, there is the rest of it. Actually, I think is pretty wicked. That main part, which just comes back way too much, I don't really like it.
Yes,
but the rest of it's actually, I think, it's actually really good. There's an odd time signature, and when I heard that, I was like, "You're fucking joking." It's actually an odd time signature on one of these records. Like the zone, that bit sounds just like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Like, you know, with the odd time and the sort of like throat singing-esque kind of moments. Like, I would not be surprised if King Gizzard just stole their entire sound off like this section of this song. Like, I was genuinely, if you listen to King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, it sounds just like that. The guitar solo is great. Like, that whole section, it's just really jammy, really good, really riffy. The whole song, though, is just way too long. It's way too long. And it doesn't have that hypnotic quality that a track like this sort of needs for it to kind of be kind of swimmy and psychedelic-y. But it's okay, I guess. It's sort of a mixed review for me, because the parts that I like, I think are quite kick-ass, I actually quite like. But the main section, which just comes back again and again and again, is just does nothing for me. I actually find quite irritating. So it's a weird one, really. It's an odd one.
Guy. That's a feeling high.
Do it all the time.
Danny, what do you think?
I agree with you that it's a mixed track. That there's things I like about it and things I don't like about it. The lyrics are so bad. You're right about that, but it's fly, high, shy, guy, and dry were the 5 I wrote down, but I think there were even more. It's just these one-syllable word rhymes. It's just...
It says bye. It says bye at one point.
Yeah, fly, high, shy, guy,
goodbye.
yeah, anyway. There's some nice syncopation in the riff, but I think that was near the start of the song I wrote that. Because I agree, Alexia, we get that riff way too much. And there's some interesting the chord structure in general, and just the sort of melodies more interesting than previous tracks. I'm not so sure on the chorus. I don't know. But then the song is bewildering. I feel like that could grow on me, maybe.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, there's quite I'm quite interesting. What do you class as the chorus?
Oh, just him going, oh.
I don't think there really is a chorus on this.
The ozone, right?
Oh, you think? Oh, that's the chorus. I consider that like a bridge.
Okay. Well,
It's weird that I consider that I'm the kind of guy. It's like the chorus. It's got a chorus look. This song. I don't know. All right, so sorry.
No, I should have clarified, because you're right. It's not clear at all. I just thought that was the chorus because the song's called Ozone. It doesn't sound like a chorus at all.
Right.
I love the descending major pentatonic sequence for the solo and with the harmonies and stuff. I agree, that's great. But just, I don't know, I wondered if what it comes down to is that I'm just not a sort of fan of the of that riff by the end of the song, but I do quite like something about the layered arrangements or the performances of the track. I'm not sure overall. I'm still not quite sure where I stand on this song. So, Alex?
It's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. It is a weird one.
Because the bits that are good, I like quite a lot. And I think, Danny, you made a good point. It's well put together. It's well realized. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And there's clearly a lot of it's not like, incompetently done.
It's well realized without a vision.
Yeah, I think a lot of this album. Yeah, I think a lot of this album, there are great bits, like in songs. I think with other albums we've covered, there have been good songs or bad songs. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this has more like good moments within songs. But I think all the other ones, like they'll have like 2 good sections, then a terrible section, or one aspect of it will just be terrible, and there'll be another aspect of it where you'll be like, oh, actually that's quite good. I think more than any other album we've covered so far. Anyway, Alex, sorry, what's your opinion?
Yeah, and I'll take all of that as overall positive, kind of in the same way how we place Destroyer quite highly in our rankings, because it does take a lot of swings, and even though they're misses, we appreciate that they went for it. And tracks like this, where I agree with your guys' criticism of it. The verse is on re-listens, I had to kind of skip through on this song because it's so grating, that vocal melody. It just goes on and on.
It really
and on.
is. Yeah.
But you guys are right. The the sort of the descending guitar solos, really cool, kind of proggy, and I like that sort of attempt. The layering of the acoustic guitar and all the other sounds. I think it's a really cool. It's a really good attempt. It doesn't always work. Same with the Ozone line. It doesn't quite work. I think mainly because it's in contrast to the verse part. That it isn't trancey enough, or doesn't put you in that space for that kind of chorus. But I really appreciate the attempt, and and I think we get more of that going forward. So with all this sort of stuff, I take it as a positive.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that there was probably more than I think probably actually maybe even more than Destroyer with this album. There was a lot of points where I was like, oh, that's interesting, or wasn't expecting that, or just like, oh, that's a really weird take, because you'd think for him, he'd just be like, oh, I just want to do sort of back to basics, straight ahead, raw record. But easily, out of all the ones that we've covered so far, this is easily, I think, of all their albums, one of the most experimental. But that's not that hard, really, is it? It's this and Destroyer in it. I mean, because the other stuff is just so fucking boring. Next one. What's on your mind? It's not great, this. I think the section with the solo genuinely does a decent job of sounding like AC/DC, particularly when they strip out all the acoustic guitars when they're not in it. Listening to this band has made me just dislike acoustic and distorted guitar pairings. I think it sounds really sluggish and floppy. I think it sounds rubbish. Also, the sort of locked up inside bit where he says locked up inside, like locked up inside, sounds just kind of clumsy and just not well executed at all. I'm really not a fan of this one, to be honest. Is it bad? Probably not. It's just not great. What do you think? What do you think, Danny?
Maybe I like it a little more, but generally I agree. I think it's a frustrating one, this song. I think I like that we get some, acoustic arpeggios after the crunchy punches in the song. Right, I've forgotten the actual riff, but we get these power chord punches followed by these acoustic arpeggios in a very Mixolydian way, which is very AC/DC. Mixolydian is like the rock mode. It's a good way. Actually, Kiss should use it more because it's a good way to mix. It sort of adds a minor flavor to the major scale. So if I play a major chord, and then that's actually not in the major scale, that D afterwards, but it creates a really nice. It's like that, isn't it? Something like that. Anyway, that's what I mean when I talk about Mixolydian. I think it sounds very good. But the chorus goes full major, if I remember. And it is trying to be the kind of song that is Paul's realm, at least Paul's solo album's realm, that he does really well.
Yeah.
A little more ballady, power ballady. I just feel like with this song, a lot of boxes are being ticked, but there's something off. I don't know if it's just the vox or the lyrics or to do with the productions, because the vocals don't sit in the mix. I felt like I was being a bit harsh on my second listen, and that actually, no, there's something good here. But I just think there's a much better song hidden in this, and something went wrong. I don't know if it's like a performance or an editing problem, I think, because Alexi's right that Locked Up Inside, it almost sounds like there was a bad, like, tape splice or something, or they just didn't perform it very tightly. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what went wrong on this song. I think there's something good in there, though. Alex?
I agree with you a lot there, man. I think there's some good fundamentals here. I like that sort of like pop chorus line. I can't remember the line, but the do do
yeah,
do,
descending major.
Yeah, and I feel as though it's not a something we hear from him much, but I agree with it. I don't think his heart is quite in this song, and I'm not quite sure how it's come about in that way, and it clashes, like that sort of chord progression clashes with, like you were saying, Alexi, the like messy acoustic guitar and the sort of distortion on the electric guitar. Like it sounds like it's doing like a kind of a 60s style pop song, but also kind of like make it heavier. I couldn't really work out what he was going for with this track. Yeah, I think, and also this is the point in the album where I really got kind of sick of his vocal style. Like the sort of, he's always in that range. I don't know what to call it, but like his voice is always like in a very specific range, pitch. And at this point, I was like, I'd start to get a bit sick of it. But yeah, again, like the last one, I didn't hate it. I didn't really hate it, but it didn't quite click like I wanted it to. Yeah.
I'd say that definitely one thing that I think, again, it sounds like a broken record, but what we could all agree on is that it's better than the majority of stuff on Rock and Roll Over. Like, there's at least, like Danny said, like maybe like a kernel of a good idea that's in there. It's still better than most stuff that's off that record. Next, the only hit of these 4 solo records, New York Groove. I think this song suits Ace to a T. I actually like this quite a lot. It's got almost like a Walk on the Wild Side sort of feel to it. It's very stripped back. It's very percussive. That allows the melodic progressions to pop a lot more, particularly in the chorus. It gives it a good release when the chorus comes in. It's kind of like, it's like a real kind of geezer song. This is like got quite an infectious quality to it. It's bright, and it's bright, and it's a good example of less is more, I think. Like that's when a true. Part makes its presence, it really, really pops. I think very, 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 very well. The backing vocals on the chorus are brilliant. They're really thick. They're very, very soulful, particularly the groove, when it comes into that lower part. And I actually think his vocals sit in that very, very, very well. Like, Ace isn't the best singer in the world, but this plays to his strengths very, very well. Like, I previously sort of compared him a little bit to Lou Reed, and he does have a very, very unique way of singing. It's sort of like talk singing. And this is exactly what this track needs. Like Paul, for example, would not sing this song well. It wouldn't suit him, but it suits Ace incredibly, incredibly well. But it's kind of odd because I knew this is the only song I knew before listening to this album. I never kind of latched onto it, but then when I was listening to it, I was like, actually, you know what? It's actually pretty good. I like it quite a lot. It's nice. It's a nice song. Danny, what do you think?
I'm exactly the same as you. What you said at the end there, Alexia. I knew this one too, but I kind of thought it was a boring song. but having listened to this album a few times, yeah, it really grew on me. The first thing is the drums sound sick at the start. They sound like there's a bit crusher on it. They must have just saturated the fuck out of it or something.
Yeah.
Or they sound like... And then this kick-ass rhythm guitar comes in with a... I love it. The hook is way better musically than where Kiss exists at. And it checks out it's a cover. Or a song that was written for him because... We don't get hooks that good from Kiss usually. The backing vocals are great. It stays on the chorus for ages, which makes sense. And there isn't actually that much to say because it comes and goes pretty quickly. It sounds more modern than the rest of the album, which again makes sense why it was a hit, I think. There's even I noticed a key change.
Again,
oh,
sorry.
go on, Alexi. Yeah.
No, I was going to say again. You made a good point about the rhythm guitar part at the beginning. There's loads of sounds. There's interesting sounds and textures on this. Like the percussive noise apparently was them, just flattening cardboard boxes or just kind of banging their feet on cardboard boxes. Like there's a bit of wah, there's a bit of phaser on it. You know, there's all kind of cool, interesting little noises on this.
Yeah, I like this one, and I would say that it's better pop than anything on Peter's album. Alex.
Oh yeah. I did not.
Yeah, it's cool.
I did not know this song before going to it. Maybe I heard it before. It did seem familiar, but when I first listened to it, I didn't know it was a cover either, and I was shocked. I thought, when I first listened to it, where the hell did Ace get this from? Sort of thing. It's completely out of what we've heard. And it's all that start with the rhythm and the sort of rhythm guitar too, that lays out the track so nicely, and everything else follows. And it, like you said, it's so simple, but just that initial beat and then just that very simple chorus works so well together. I just said that I kind of got sick of Ace's voice on the last track. I really like the lower register for this one. It suits him so well, just like you said, Alexi. Whereas in other Kiss tracks, whenever they kind of done spoken word bits, it's always been super cringy. On this, it works. So yeah, really, really great. Did you guys listen to the original in sort of comparison?
No, I was gonna ask actually. No, I've never listened to the original. Is the original any different?
Okay.
Is it quite a faithful cover?
It's a very faithful cover, but this sort of the higher production values of this help it a lot. The original's good, but I think what you're saying, the little touches, sort of with the stomps and the guitar work, really, really bring forward. Also, much better backing singers than the original track. I'd recommend you guys listen to the original though, to sort of out comparison.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it. Do you agree with me about how I think this just suits his vibe, to at least his vocal style, to an absolute T?
Yeah. It's more
yeah, it does.
Shock me than any other track on this album, probably.
This is it's just more his vibe. Also, it's kind of more his world. Do you know what I mean? He kind of grew up in New York. He just kind of, used to, kind of street drink and sort of, kind of meander about and stuff like that. So I think it's just, it's very him. It's good. Very good, actually. It's really good. Next song. I'm in Need of Love. There's more experimentation on this. I think that using delay pedals is something he should have just done more of. I think it really matches his aesthetic. Also, the bass. The bass sounds great. There's some really, really jazzy little fills there and runs, which are very, very nice. The guitar solo is great. And so is the instrumentation behind it, the sort of jam and chord progression that's happening behind the guitar solo is really good. When it goes half time at the crescendo, it's pretty badass. It's actually really, really good. Which is weird because it also, when it does go half time in that crescendo, it's not long at all. It's 10 seconds, but it really, really, it hits quite hard. I just kind of wish though that it sounded a bit bigger, and I know this album really isn't about hooks, in my opinion, but this really could have done with a better one, I think. There's not really a lot to grab onto, in my opinion. Danny, what do you think? A mixed review from me. I don't know. It is bits again. Bits I like. Bits I think are actually pretty awesome. And then there's other bits where I'm just like, I think it's kind of just that it's more of a product of weak songwriting. I think this one. Danny, what do you think?
Mine's not so much mixed as black and white, because while I agree it's generally, Lexi, that the sort of the grandeur and FX, especially the opening, make it sound certainly more 80s and more forward thinking. And I quite like the instrumental, although I think the vocals really aren't great here. A bit nothingy. But to me, while that's all a bit nothingy, as soon as the double time and the solo came in, I thought, what the fuck? This is so good. I think this could be his best solo ever, in my opinion. I had nothing to say until this solo. Yeah, man, and the chromaticism at the end. I think in that halftime bit you're talking about, where he's doing those high bits as he's going down on the lower string. It sounds beautiful. I love it. It's a really good guitar solo. And then back to nothingness for me. So I'll take it for that really, really good solo in the middle, but I don't really care about the rest of the song. Alex?
Yeah, completely agree. The double time bit at the halftime bit's super cool. Wish we got more of that.
Yeah.
Those sort of solos. But kind of similar to what we said with Ozone, where I was like, I really appreciate them trying different stuff, but here a lot of stuff doesn't quite work. It's a bit of a chore to listen to, especially with the kind of interjecting guitar licks. I'm not sure what you call it, the throughout the song. It's kind of annoying, and the sort of the standard riff going throughout the track isn't quite enough to carry the song. And like I say, in the vocals and chorus, there's not enough to grab a hold of, other than that really awesome guitar solo in the middle. So this one was probably my least favorite track on the album in terms of when listened to it, it was just a bit other than that guitar solo, kind of waiting for this one to be done, sort of thing.
Yeah, again, good bits though. Good bits.
Yeah.
And
not entirely negative, really.
No, I mean the main bulk of the song. It's not it's not that it's bad. It's just nothing really. Just nothingy. Not offensive. Just a bit boring. Just boring. Wiped Out. I don't like the lyrics. Flat no on the lyrics. Absolutely
rubbish.
Flat no to the lyrics.
Rubbish.
However, musically, I actually rate this it's rubbish. Musically, I actually rate this kind of quite highly. The chorus is massive. I love the wah in the verse as well. There's a great guitar solo. The verses have a sort of frenetic groove to them, which is quite funky, and it serves the chorus surprisingly well, particularly when it goes into the halftime. Even though the verse has a completely different vibe to the chorus, it does serve to make the chorus go a lot harder. There's a lot more of a release to it. There's a bit more experimentation again on this one, not just with the sounds, but with the songwriting as well. Which again is not, is welcome. It's welcome to me. I like that. I like that he's experimenting and stuff. If you listen to the verse, you don't know that chorus is going to hit. It's not what you expect. It's the last chorus that you're going to expect. For better or worse, I'm not quite sure how I would classify this track. I don't know what I would call it, and that is quite unusual, particularly for a Kiss sort of release or something of the Kiss universe. I'm not really quite sure what I'd call it. And in a sense, kind of, there is a sense I feel that when you're listening to this album that he is thinking about it. And he is sort of crafting these songs to the best of his ability, and he's not just throwing shit together. there is a feeling of that. He is genuinely trying to do different things and thinking about it and being considerate. I think this is a pretty good example of that. He does sing it in kind of an annoying way. That is true. The lyrics and the vocal melody again are not great. Not great at all. But musically, no, I think it is good. I like this. Danny, what do you think?
I don't really agree, but I so like and agree with what you said just then at the end about, like, you can hear he's trying. So I'm not gonna go so hard, actually, because it's also what you said, Alexi, about, like, there's so much stuff here. There's good bits. But I think fundamentally where I disagree with you, Alexi, is that I don't think the verse complements the chorus. I think we've got two completely different songs. I like the
I could sympathize with that, though.
That happens at the end of every verse, and then it just becomes this completely different song. It's like I think the echo on the Wiped Out sounds like he's trying to, like, make up for an underwhelming chorus. Or at least I see what you mean. It's a big chorus, Alexi, right? And then it's, like, fast and it's thrashy, but it's not a good hook for me. It's not catchy. I mean, again, I could list bits that I like. Nice solo section, especially the rhythm in the background of the solo section. I like, there's like some muted wah rhythm near the start. I like that he's trying to be theatrical and expressive with his voice. I think for here it is a bit on the not so good side.
A bit much.
It's a bit much.
It's too much, I think.
And I just think the lyrics, terrible. They play out like a boring, man, we were so drunk last night story. But it is, for its subject matter, a lot better than Cold Gin. So that's really my review of it. It's better than Cold Gin. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah. I agree with. I kind of agree with both you guys. For me, the change from the different parts of the song is a bit sort of whiplash. It kind of it's a bit too much. Even though I see what he's trying to do, like with the lyrics, where he was like, he has this moment, and then we got so drunk and I didn't even know what happened, man. Like, I think that's the sort of thing he's going for, but he can't quite. He doesn't have sort of the vocal range to do that big jump, and also just the jump from the two sort of instrumental changes just doesn't quite work for me. Again, kind of points for trying, but this one was very messy. Felt a bit rushed at times, and I liked, we're getting heavier. Going back to older albums ago, we always complain that it needs to be heavier and you need to try more sort of heavier riffs. Well, we are getting it in spades here. I know we sort of that ship has sailed a long time ago for us, but I like what he's trying again, kind of similar to Snowblind, but overall it doesn't quite work as well as I think he wants it to.
Right. Last track of the album, Fractured Mirror. Yeah, it's nice. I think this is the last thing I was expecting, but it's good.
Huh.
It's good nonetheless. Yeah, it's too long, I think, and I think there should be more of a build. I mean, essentially, he's just sort of layering millions of guitars on top of each other, and I do like the wall of sound that he creates. It does sound pretty fat and pretty hench, but once it peaks, there's kind of nowhere for it to go. Having said that, though, the synth line, the sort of wonky synth line is sweet.
Yeah, I like that.
It's great. It's fantastic. Like, I actually think that of all the tracks that we've covered, I think this song matches the vibe of the front cover the most. I kind of would have loved the idea of someone that dressed like him, that makes this almost like krautrock, wall of sound, spacey, guitar-y sort of stuff. I love the idea of that as an artist. That would have been brilliant. And I think this song is the things about it, but they're more to do with the structure of it that I'm not so stoked about. But it is nice. It's very nice. I I do like it. I mean, I just kind of wish there'd been more of this. I think that I wish there'd been more than this. There's been more of this vibe and done quite differently. I've done a bit more execution, a bit more thought, a bit more labour.
Taken to more places.
Because, like I said, I feel like... What were you saying?
Taken to more places, maybe.
Yes, yeah. Good way of putting it. Yeah, taken to more different places, a bit more like, just a bit more dynamics in it, a bit more of a build, maybe some different melodies coming and stuff like that. But it is good. It was the last thing I was expecting. I just kind of wish there'd been more of it. I think it would have been a really interesting idea, at least for an artist, to have done stuff like this. Danny, what do you think?
I'm going to do what I sometimes do and just read the notes of my initial listening, because it's not too much. Oh, hello. Okay.
I'm excited.
Yeah, why not? Yep. We're going to take this bad boy anywhere? Okay, a few more chord changes. That's cool. Oh, shit. A badass thin analog lead synth. Fuck yes. Pretty epic sci-fi OP we got going here.
That is great.
Bendy guitar harmonies. Yeah, why not? Lil fade out, back to where we started. And then I put, you're not Mike Oldfield, add a badass solo or something, Jesus. But then the second time I listened, I put, nah, I like this though. It reminds me of getting into multi-tracking. That's what it reminds me, just like, like you said, Alexi, just layering all these things on top of each other. Like a sort of, bolero or a canon or something. It's a good way to end the album. It's fine.
I think it is, yeah. I think this goes back to what we were saying about how he is thinking about things and he's trying different things. I think this is a really good example of it. Like, you can tell, you can hear him experimenting.
Yeah.
Like, particularly that synth line that just comes out, which is great. Really sounds fantastic. Really sci-fi. It really matches his state. Like, you can tell that was probably like the last thing he put on. Do you know what I mean? They sort of built this kind of wall sound. Was like, oh, let me just try these different things. It's great. It's fantastic.
What do you think, Alex?
Well, I'm glad you said that about Danny, about the multi-track, because I wrote this is what happens when you let a guitarist just like let loose in the studio for a while. Like, this is their idea of like, oh, I'm just gonna like lay a guitar upon guitar and guitar, the sort of thing. No one's gonna stop me, sort of thing. Just tinker around in the studio. It's very pleasant. It sounds very nice. I think I would rather this be in like the middle of the album. It's like a breather, maybe. But I think it's more this era of albums. I don't just mean Kiss, but like in the 70s and stuff. This acts as like sort of a bonus track at the end, sort of thing. It sounds nice. I agree with what you're saying. The sort of synth bit is really cool. I just kind of wish it went somewhere. And it's almost 6 minutes, right? Like, it's quite long.
Yeah, it's five minutes.
Justifies. Yeah, it doesn't quite justify that. It sounds though Ace had a really fun time with this one. I don't think it adds much to the album.
It's having fun. Oh, come on.
Yeah, yeah. He's having fun. He's having fun, and it sounds nice. It's pleasant. It's good. So the album as a whole, this is probably, in my opinion, one of the more, if not the most unique of the albums we've had so far. Definitely at least of the solo albums, I'd say. I would say it's the only one that has like a sound to it, like quite a unique idiosyncratic sound. It's psychedelic in places. It goes quite hard in others. His voice and style of singing really gives it an identity, as well, a really unique flavor. Like I said, this album is definitely not about hooks. Like, it's not about hooks. It's not about melody. It's more about riffs and energy, different sounds, and just like a vibe that I think he's trying to go for. Does it succeed at that at times? Yeah. At other times, not really. Not so much. Mm-hmm. Its low points for me, though, are, like I said, are just when it sounds like Kiss, which are the first two tracks. And then nowhere near as bad as the lowest points on other Kiss records. Definitely not. For me, alright, it's definitely top half of the list, 100%. I'd say top two. I'd say. Maybe top 3. I'd say as a whole album experience, I would probably put it above Destroyer because the lows on Destroyer are really dire. And actually, I think in a lot of ways, it's more interesting than Destroyer. There's more experimentation, or there's more parts where I'm like, oh god, that's interesting. Like, oh, that's quite good. Because when Destroyer does go full experimental, you do get some absolutely shocking stuff. Like you get things like Great Expectations. And when that's being more experimental, that's more about, when Destroyer's being more experimental, it's more experimental in its arrangements and adding things like orchestras on. Whereas I think that is more of a plush album. This is more of a forward-thinking, experimental record ways, trying to use different sounds, moving forward. Like the lows on this album are more like a swing and a miss than they are just lows. And at times it can be quite dull. This from front,
just like an eye roll or something.
Yeah. I mean, you just kind of go like, it didn't really work that, or kind of, it didn't land, or this from front to back, I think is pretty consistent in quality. I think it's actually kind of more consistent than Destroyer, because Destroyer has got some good highs on it, but also some really shocking lows. I think it's also, for me, then it comes up against Paul's, and I think it's more interesting than Paul's. I think it's more textured and more unique than Paul's, but Paul's definitely has more hooks on it. 100% has more hooks on it. So I'm a bit flummoxed, really. I am a little bit flummoxed. Danny, what do you think?
I think, about the album, I think I said it at the start. I think I agree with what I believe the masses seem to think, which is that Ace is the coolest member of Kiss. Not to say he's my favorite, or that the real guy is the most cool guy. I'm talking about him within Kiss, him as the spaceman. And while his air of mystery can sometimes fall dangerously close to like a general gormlessness, especially when you see him in like interviews and stuff, I think he was pulling it off back then. And this is an album that I had very little to add on subsequent listens. I feel like I kind of generally just had a feel for it the first time round, which isn't a good or a bad thing necessarily. I think he needs a lyricist, and he needs more selectiveness with his ideas, or at least to be able to develop his ideas more. Like a lot of what I have to say just comes down to, I think he functions best with collaboration, but that is not necessarily a criticism, because that's also to say he should have a larger voice in Kiss. It's not just that I think he needs support as a songwriter. There is, it's like what we said at the start. Yeah, Lexi, like what you were saying. Like, we obviously are missing so much of Ace on those Kiss albums. And I was thinking, not even just songwriting, just as a fucking lead guitarist. He's obviously not being allowed to let loose nearly enough. And I even wrote this in my notes, Alexi, and it's amazing. This is what me and you and you too, Alex, have been saying independently, which is this album is full of good bits and ideas that could be built up into something great, something really good. But they're just a bit scattered. It's a lot of... Go on, Alexi.
Well, I was saying that I think that, again, if you didn't have the time constraint of like, well, we've got to get all these albums out at the same time.
Yeah.
And within like a year, I reckon if he'd had more time on it, or had continued making records as a solo artist, the next Ace Frehley album that comes out is 10 years pretty much after this one comes out. And times change. He was kind of trying to more ape like hair metal and stuff like that, because, it's a different time period. But like, if he carried on, I think he probably would have, like, within this day, I think he probably would have made some pretty interesting stuff, or had more time, or worked with the right people. You know what I mean? I think he would have made some quite cool stuff.
Could be, yeah. I mean, who knows? I think that there's certainly a chance of that. In terms of ranking, I don't usually think about the ranking much before we do this. And it is weird, because I didn't leave this album, floored by its amazingness. But I think I'm with you, Alexi. What you just said is especially true about how the lows on this album are not lows like Kiss albums have lows. Or even Paul's album has lows.
exactly.
There's like some shitty ballads on Paul's stuff.
There is, which is the one,
or at least one, the one at the end. Yeah. Maybe there's not. Maybe I shouldn't have
the one where he
pluralized.
sounds like he's.
Yeah. What was it?
Oh, love her, touch her, never far apart, or whatever it's called.
That one, yeah. That's worse than any track.
Way worse than anything on this album.
Yeah, I agree. It's
any track on it.
In a weird way, it's not like it's got these super highs either. Although I do really like New York Groove, and certain again bits. There's some real good bits.
Actually, you know what? New York Groove is pretty high though. I think of all the stuff that we've covered that they have put out, I'd say New York Groove is like probably up there. Probably top 10. Probably top 10 like great songs that I've.
It's probably top 10 that we've
definitely
done so
up
far.
there.
Yeah, it's certainly up there.
You know, we got Wouldn't You Like to Know? I mean, whereas I'd say Paul off his solo album he has one, which is Wouldn't You Like to Know?
No, Tonight You Belong to Me.
That would probably be.
I'd put that up. That's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I wouldn't go. No, you're thinking of the wrong one, man. You're the one you like's the pop punk one.
No, I like Alexi. I like more than one.
Wouldn't you like
I know which one you mean. I love that one. That's higher.
Oh, really?
That's higher. But the riff on Tonight You Belong to Me is very good. I think that. Tonight.
It is a sick riff, actually. Yeah, it is a pretty sweet riff.
Sorry, we're just.
Are you with me then? That you reckon it's a toss up between Paul's and Ace's?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that. I think I am. I'm not sure where I stand on that. Whether number one should be Ace or Paul. So let's hear what Alex has to say.
Can I just say one thing really quick?
Yes,
really quickly. There have been some albums we've covered that have been a real drag to listen to, like a real slog, particularly like Rock and Roll Over and Heart of Hell
and Peters
and stuff like that. During this album, listening to it from front to back, there is no point where I was like, oh, I was getting sick of this or like, oh, this is boring. It always kept me at least a little bit sort of interested and invested because there was a lot of different stuff on it.
Yeah.
Alex, anyway.
Well, yes, since freaking Dressed to Kill, we have been saying that most of the time Kiss seem to be out of ideas in a lot of their tracks, and they go back to this formula, they go back to the well that they originally started with, and we just get sick and tired of these same old songs. But it's very clear from this album that Ace, like Dan was saying, Ace has a lot of ideas he can bring to the table, and it might not always fit, but it does make it more interesting. And on first, I legit, when I first listened to this album, I thought, oh god, this is going to be the best of the lot, because it is interesting all the way through, for good and bad, but it kept my attention the whole way through. The production values are consistent and usually pretty good. And I think he shines it on other solo albums. Well, mainly Peter. Like, he doesn't shine his talents well enough. But here, Ace shines quite nicely, especially his guitar work. And it's, even though parts are up and down, it is quite consistent in terms of vibe and style, and like it feels very much like it comes from a part of the 70s, and doesn't sound too ancient like some of the other stuff we've heard. So I'm happy to put this either at number one or number two. Right now I'm saying we put it above Paul. Because I think every single track, there's something that we like about it. Maybe with what's track 2? Maybe with Speedin to My Baby, there's not too much take from it. But from all the tracks, there's something that we liked about it. And I don't think we could say that about any of the albums we've listened to. So I'm happy for it to be number one. But
yeah, I think that, again, there's nothing on this that's just like flat out bad. There are some stuff off Paul's that are just flat out bad. I mean, Yeah.
I'm happy.
It's not good though, is it? This. It's not great. It's I don't know though, but I really, you know what? I really appreciated listening to some different sounds and some different textures and stuff like that, and just trying.
That's all I'm saying for it.
And
It was a more enjoyable listen.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
all.
I agree. It was, you know what it was? It was a more stimulating listen than anything
Mhm,
else,
mhm.
including Paul's, definitely. Because Paul's, I was like, oh, I kind of know where this is going. I know where this fits. No surprises really from Paul's record. Yeah, I'd put it. I'm cool with number one.
I am. It's just weird
Danny.
that I didn't even think about that, because I remember finishing Paul's and not necessarily thinking, well, that's got to be number one, but I was thinking like, yo, that's gonna be high though. I'm gonna rank that maybe higher than the other two are, and we ended up putting it up there. But with Aces, I really didn't think it would be that high. But actually, I think I'm with what you guys are saying. Yeah, why not number one? Why not?
Why not number one?
Well, whenever I finished listening to this album, I did always kind of view it positively. Do you know what I mean? In retrospect, on the whole, I'm sort of like, well, I'm glad I listened to that. As in, like, I did enjoy listening to that. It took me by surprise. It took me off guard, and I think that I'd much rather be surprised, for better or worse, than be bored. 100%. So,
Yeah,
number one.
number one.
Yeah, well done,
Well done,
Ace.
Ace.
You
Well done.
showed. Well, he showed Paul at least. He showed Paul. Will he show Gene? That's the question.
I don't know.
Oh, can't
Who
wait.
knows?
Can't wait.
Who knows?
Gene's got a lot to live up to.
Yeah, and he's certainly
Who
a member
knows?
that
Who knows?
all of us feel quite. I can't even joke about it, so I'm not even going to say it.
positive.
No, yeah, sorry. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but I do not. I mean, I've really got to try and be objective
Same, man.
when
yeah.
listening to it. I've got to
Open
try to
mind.
be objective because it's just. Ace Frehley has other solo albums, and I might listen to them. I mean, I'm pretty sure they all just try to kind of ape hair metal and stuff like that. But there's he put a band together called Frehley's Comet, and I might listen to them actually. I might listen to them.
Will you listen to Peter's other solo stuff?
Well, no. I actually still think his album should be number one. I love that album. There's some absolute bangers on it.
No.
Absolute bangers on it. What should we sing? What should we sing to end on?
It's got to be New York
We'll
Groove.
sing
Sure.
Ozone. Just
I'm gonna sing New York
Yeah,
Groove.
let's do New York Groove.
Cause I'm back
Back,
in the New York groove.
New York,
I'm back
York,
back in the New York groove.
baby.